Thank you to all of you at the Montreal Zen Center for bringing this about, and to everyone here participating. It's a joy and a pleasure. As Louis has mentioned, this is the second Dharma talk. In the previous Dharma talk, I took up the ancient statement, delusive thoughts and feelings hidden in lotus threads.
Dans le premier Dharma talk, j'ai cité la phrase suivante: des pensées et des émotions trompeuses, dissimulées dans les racines des fleurs de lotus.
These delusive thoughts and feelings that may remain hidden.
Ces pensées et ces émotions trompeuses qui peuvent rester cachées.
Hidden in the relative quiet of Zazen.
Cachées dans le calme relatif du Zazen.
Hidden in the joy of attainment.
Cachées dans les joies de toucher la vérité.
Hidden in so-called Kensho experiences and so on.
Cachées dans les expériences dites d'éveil, et ainsi de suite.
We looked at how important it is to humbly give ourselves to this practice.
Et nous avons vu à quel point il est important de se donner entièrement et humblement à la pratique.
I mentioned how Hakuin, commenting on this quote, delusive thoughts and feelings hidden in lotus threads.
J'ai aussi mentionné Hakuin et les commentaires qu'il avait faits au sujet de la citation des pensées et des émotions trompeuses dissimulées dans les racines de lotus.
Hakuin spoke of the mu koan as a method that cuts through the subtle roots of birth and death.
Et Hakuin, vous vous en rappellerez, parlait du koan mu et comment le koan pouvait trancher les racines subtiles des fleurs de lotus.
As Hakuin put it, gnaw on it, chew it to pieces.
Comme Hakuin le disait, rongez-le, mâchez-le bien, mettez-le en pièces.
Until you chew through the very root of life.
Jusqu'à ce que vous mâchiez jusqu'à la racine même de la vie.
Finish dying.
Et puis, mourrez.
Then come back to life.
Et alors, revenez à la vie.
Hakuin concludes, don't wait until you're old and tears of regret are streaming down your cheeks.
Et Hakuin conclut en nous disant, n'attendez pas d'être un vieillard et de voir des larmes de regret inonder votre visage.
Let us continue now with today's Dharma talk.
Continuons maintenant avec le Dharma talk d'aujourd'hui.
A Chinese Zen master of the 9th century named Yangshan asked,
Un maître zen du 9e siècle appelé Yangshan demanda,
how long have you been without defiling thoughts and emotions?
depuis combien de temps votre esprit est-il clair de toute pensée discriminante et de toute émotion inutile?
Yangshan's teacher, Guishan, responded,
Guishan, le maître de Yangshan, répondit,
7 years.
7 ans.
This teacher, Guishan in Chinese or Isan in Japanese,
Ce maître, Guishan en chinois ou Isan en japonais,
and his disciple, Gyozan in Japanese or Yangshan,
et son disciple Gyoshan en chinois ou Yangshan en japonais.
they lived at the same time as Lin Chi or Rinzai.
Vivaient à la même époque que Lin Chi ou Rinzai.
These two, Guishan and Gyozan, were so admired that their own school or style of Zen formed.
Ces deux maîtres, Guishan et Yangshan, étaient tellement admirés à leur époque qu'ils formèrent leur propre école de Zen.
Taking the first syllable of their names, it's the Gui-yang style, or in Japanese, Igyo style of Zen or Chan.
À partir de la première syllabe de leurs deux noms, ils formèrent l'école de Guiyan. Je n'irai pas plus. I won't go further. These names are confusing me.
We'll just stick with my poorly pronounced Chinese pronunciation, Guishan
Yeah.
and Yangshan. But don't worry about it. We can call them Tom and Jerry if you would.
Yeah,
like.
sure.
What was their style of Zen?
Quel était leur style de Zen?
It was said to be friendly and informal, like father and son.
On disait de leur style qu'il était informel, amical, un peu comme la relation entre un père et son fils.
One need only compare this to the style of Rinzai or Lin Chi.
Il suffit de comparer cela au style très différent de Rinzai ou Linji.
For example, a classic line from the Rinzai Doku, the record of Rinzai.
Voici par exemple une phrase tirée des annales de Rinzai.
Quoting Rinzai, "Elsewhere the dead are cremated. Here I bury them alive right on the spot."
Alors Rinzai disait, ailleurs, on brûle les corps. Ici, je les enterre directement devant moi.
Now, this was Rinzai's brand of tough compassion, we might say.
On pourrait dire que c'était la compassion ferme de Rinzai.
Guishan, the master in the former exchange, is different.
Oui, Guishan, le maître dont on a parlé tantôt, était assez différent de cela.
If you look at the record of Rinzai, it is actually those two monks, Guishan and Gyozan, who are commenting on what is going on in the later part of the record of Rinzai.
Si on se fie aux annales de Rinzai, on y voit Guishan et Yangshan qui eux-mêmes commentent une partie des annales de Rinzai.
This gives you some idea of how deeply respected Guishan and his disciple were.
Cela nous permet de voir à quel point Guishan et son disciple étaient admirés à leur époque.
outstanding monks and masters come to Rinzai and are struck or yelled at.
Des maîtres et des étudiants remarquables viennent voir Rinzai et se font tabasser et se font crier après.
But in the record of Rinzai, Guishan and Guishan are allowed to make comments about this, almost joke about it.
Mais tout au contraire, dans les annales de Rinzai, Guishan et Yangshan se permettent même de faire des commentaires au sujet des écrits de Rinzai. Et Rinzai ne crie pas.
Before they even existed, these two monk, master and disciple, Guishan and his disciple, were already having mondo exchanges and adding on what are now called capping phrases in the record of Rinzai.
Avant même tout cela, le maître Guishan et son disciple déjà commentaient des conversations, des mondos dans le zen et commentaient même ce que l'on appelle en anglais des capping phrases qui se trouvaient dans les annales de Rinzai.
For example, a capping phrase mentioned by these two guys.
Voici l'exemple de ce qu'on appelle une capping phrase en anglais, citée par le maître et son disciple.
Quote, have a child and you understand a father's love, end quote.
Citation. Ayez un enfant et vous comprendrez l'amour d'un père. Fin de citation.
Guishan is also the man who mentions the following very famous quote in the record of Rinzai. It's not Rinzai, it's Guishan who says it.
Guishan est l'auteur d'une autre citation qui apparaît elle-même dans les annales de Rinzai.
Quote, realization equaling the masters diminishes it by half. Only surpassing realization continues this lineage, end quote.
Citation. Une réalisation égale à celle du maître le diminue de moitié. Seule une réalisation qui surpasse celle du maître est digne de continuer cette lignée. Fin de citation.
Guishan's admonitions was the first Zen text published in Japan.
Les admonitions de Guishan ont été en fait le premier texte zen publié au Japon.
And it includes the very famous lines, inquire exhaustively into the Dharma principle, take awakening as your standard, end quote.
Et dans ces admonitions, on trouve cette phrase célèbre. Approfondissez de manière exhaustive le Dharma et prenez l'éveil comme seule norme.
Guishan is also famous to many of you as the monk who kicked over the pitcher and thus become the abbot of a monastery. This is in the Mumon Kan or Gateless Barrier, case 40.
Dans le cas 40 du Mumon Kan, l'on rencontre également Guishan, qui est célèbre pour avoir renversé le pichet d'eau avec son pied. Et, ce faisant, est devenu le maître du monastère en montagne.
Some years later, a master refused to indulge one of his brilliant disciples. Eventually, that disciple was deeply awakened when stone struck bamboo, as many of you know.
Quelques années plus tard, un maître a refusé de reconnaître l'un de ses étudiants les plus brillants, Et cet étudiant, après avoir quitté le monastère, s'éveilla lorsqu'une petite pierre frappa le balai de bambou avec lequel il travaillait.
The master was Guishan.
Ce maître, c'était Guishan.
Enough said.
On en a assez dit.
But 7 years?
Mais 7 ans sans pensée discriminante et sans émotion inutile.
I trust you see this is meant as great encouragement.
J'imagine que vous voyez bien qu'il faut l'entendre comme un grand encouragement.
How so?
De quelle façon?
There are several versions of this story. One of them in Entangling Vines, a koan collection, goes like this.
Il y a plusieurs versions de cette histoire. L'une d'entre elles, dans le texte Entangling Vines, se raconte comme suit.
In this case, it's not the disciple, but it's Guishan himself asking his disciple, how long have you been without defiling thoughts and emotions?
Dans cette version, ce n'est pas le disciple qui demande au maître, c'est le maître qui demande au disciple. Depuis combien de temps votre esprit n'a-t-il pas été obscurci par des pensées et des émotions trompeuses?
The disciple Yangshan didn't answer, but instead asked Guishan, how many years has it been for you?
Le disciple Yangshan ne répondit pas, mais demanda plutôt à son maître, « Mais vous, depuis combien d'années? »
Guishan answers,
Guishan répondit,
already 7 years since this old monk ended it. And you?
Cela fait déjà 7 ans depuis que j'ai cessé cela. Et vous?
Disciple Yangshan responds, with me, it still needs settling.
Et le disciple répondit, en ce qui me concerne, il y a encore du travail à faire.
As you can see, it's difficult to translate. Huh? It still needs settling in the sense it's still unruly. It needs refining.
Oui, comme vous pouvez le voir, c'est difficile à traduire. Settling signifie qu'il reste encore du travail à faire pour établir. C'est encore désordonné. Ce n'est pas encore fermement établi.
So now you think that Master Guishan was enlightened, but the disciple Yangshan was not.
Bon, alors vous pensez probablement que le maître Guishan était, lui, éveillé, alors que son disciple Yangshan ne l'était pas.
That too is a delusive thread. Let it go.
Encore là, encore cette fois, ce n'est qu'une autre illusion. Laissez tomber tout cela.
Guishan, the master, is right where he needed to be.
Guishan, le maître, était exactement là où il avait besoin d'être.
And he spoke from there.
Et c'est de là qu'il parlait.
Take it to heart.
Prenez-le à cœur.
The disciple Yangshan was also right where he needed to be.
Son disciple Yangshan était lui aussi exactement là où il avait besoin d'être.
You and me are right where we need to be.
Vous et moi, nous sommes aussi exactement là où nous avons besoin d'être.
Our sincere practice,
Notre pratique sincère,
our humble tears of gratitude,
nos larmes humbles de gratitude
show the way from here.
nous montrent la voie à partir d'ici.
Hakuin, in his own way, well summed up the essential point of real practice.
À sa façon, Hakuin résume comme suit l'essentiel de la pratique.
The Mu koan is one method that cuts through the subtle roots of birth and death.
Le koan mu est une méthode qui tranche les racines de la vie et mort.
But whatever that method is,
Quelle que soit, par contre, cette méthode,
gnaw on it, chew it to pieces.
rongez-le, mâchez-le, mettez-le en pièces.
Until, as Hakuin says, you chew right through the root of life.
Jusqu'à ce que, comme le dit Hakuin, vous en arriviez à trancher la racine même de la vie.
Finish dying.
Puis, mourrez,
Then come back to life.
et alors, revenez à la vie.
Again, Hakuin concludes, don't wait till you're old and tears of regret are streaming down your cheeks.
Et encore une fois, Hakuin conclut, n'attendez pas d'être vieux et que des larmes de regret inondent votre visage.
I mentioned yesterday, but it bears repeating.
J'ai mentionné hier, mais il vaut la peine de le répéter.
Quote, intellectual defilements break off suddenly like the Vajra diamond.
Une citation. Les errances intellectuelles se brisent soudainement, comme le diamant du Vajra.
Emotional defilements are gradually severed, like lotus threads.
Les errances émotionnelles se tranchent peu à peu, comme les tiges de lotus.
End quote.
Fin de citation.
As mentioned, intellect and emotion are not simply two different things. They are one in us often.
Comme je l'ai mentionné aussi, l'intellect et l'émotivité peuvent être distingués, mais dans notre expérience, elles ne sont jamais séparées.
We are invested in, we have emotional attachment to our thoughts and ideas.
Nous avons des attachements, un investissement émotionnel dans nos pensées ou face à nos idées.
And our thoughts and ideas can rouse strong emotions, can't they?
Et nos émotions et nos pensées peuvent soulever en nous des émotions très intenses, n'est-ce pas?
You must see through in your practice.
Vous devez voir à travers cela dans votre pratique.
what cleanly and suddenly breaks off?
Qu'est-ce qui, soudainement et de façon très nette, se brise ou cesse?
And what remains?
Et qu'est-ce qui reste?
Only gradually to dissolve through attentive, patient, humble practice.
Et ce qui reste lentement se dissout à travers une pratique humble, attentive et patiente.
Let us keep our eye and our heart open.
Il faut garder l'œil ouvert et le cœur ouvert.
This is real practice.
Voilà ce qu'est une vraie pratique.
To conclude,
Pour conclure,
for years now, we have been hammering down the right approach of practice.
depuis des années, nous avons martelé une approche correcte de la pratique.
The importance of sustained focus, attention,
L'importance d'une attention soutenue
and of living a proper lifestyle in accord with this.
et l'importance de cultiver un mode de vie sain en accord avec la pratique.
Thus, what seemed impossible becomes inevitable. It cannot be helped.
Et ce qui au début pouvait paraître impossible devient inévitable. On ne peut l'éviter.
If not, humbly see how you are falling back into delusive patterns.
Si ce n'est pas le cas, alors humblement, prenez le temps de voir comment vous retombez dans vos vieilles habitudes,
including the delusion that you are now free of delusion.
et surtout, soyez attentifs à cette illusion qu'il n'y a plus d'illusion dans votre pratique.
There's nothing in those hollow threads, huh?
Oui, il n'y a plus rien, n'est-ce pas, dans ces racines de lotus.
If you see something is wrong, humbly correct it.
Si vous voyez que quelque chose ne va pas, alors humblement, corrigez.
This is real practice.
Ça aussi, c'est la vraie pratique.
If you get to the point in your practice where contact one-on-one is necessary, let me know. I'm here for you.
Si vous en venez à voir qu'il est nécessaire pour vous d'avoir une rencontre en one-on-one avec Jeff, alors n'hésitez pas.
For now, let us continue.
Pour l'instant, continuons
Together
ensemble
to the very end.
jusqu'à la fin.
Then, out of loving compassion,
Et alors, à partir d'une compassion aimante,
even further.
allons encore plus loin.
As I mentioned yesterday, please feel free to speak up if you have a question or concern from out of the practice.
Comme je l'ai mentionné hier, n'hésitez pas, si vous avez une question fondée sur la pratique, n'hésitez pas à vous exprimer.
Take a moment so that the question can really settle.
Prenez un moment pour que la question s'établisse fortement.
Then it can be useful for yourself and for others.
À ce moment, votre question pourra être utile pour vous et pour tout le monde.
Does anyone have a question or concern from out of the practice? Please feel free.
Est-ce que quelqu'un a une question à partir de la pratique? Sentez-vous libre.
Oui, Michel, du Grand Montréal. Je vais avoir besoin que, Louis, que tu traduises ce que je veux dire à Jeff.
Oui, avec plaisir, Michel. I will translate, Jeff.
Je sais que tu l'as souvent expliqué et répété.
I know that you have talked about it a lot and repeated it.
Et c'est probablement très, très simple, mais oui, vas-y.
And it probably is quite simple.
Mais j'espère tout le temps d'une fois à l'autre mieux comprendre.
But I always hope from one time to another to understand more.
Qu'est-ce que c'est se donner entièrement à la pratique, spirituellement et concrètement?
What does it mean to give oneself entirely to the practice in a concrete way, in a practical way? What does that mean?
First of all, it means to let go of your understanding.
Premièrement, ça signifie laisser aller ta compréhension.
Everything you think you understand.
Tout ce que tu crois que tu comprends.
Everything you think you are.
Tout ce que tu crois que tu es.
Drop it.
Laisse tomber tout ça.
Like a hot potato.
Comme une patate chaude.
When you see the delusions that it creates, the pain and the suffering it causes.
Quand tu vois toutes les illusions qui accompagnent cela et toute la souffrance que ça crée.
The direct experience, not some kind of intellectual understanding, the pain and the suffering.
Oui, la douleur, la souffrance, l'expérience directe, pas simplement une compréhension intellectuelle.
When we humbly recognize that, acknowledge that,
Quand on reconnaît humblement cette souffrance, quand on l'admet,
may I ask you,
puis-je te demander à toi,
how can you not give all of yourself to the practice?
comment peux-tu à ce moment ne pas te donner entièrement à la pratique?
Je dirais que c'est une question qui fait son chemin et qui me pousse à aller plus loin.
I would say that it is a question that is still like on the road in me. It is making its
Say that
way.
again. It is still.
It is a question that is still making its way in me. Okay. And it is pushing me ahead.
Pull it out of yourself, my friend. Pull it out of yourself.
Tire-la à l'extérieur de toi. Tire-la en dehors de toi.
It is very simple, ultimately.
Ultimement, c'est très simple.
When we stop manipulating it.
quand on cesse de manipuler la question, tout devient simple.
It is finally unavoidable.
Et en toute fin, c'est inévitable.
Once we stop running into the intellect, our understanding, our thoughts and emotions,
Une fois que l'on cesse de courir dans notre compréhension intellectuelle, dans nos idées, nos pensées, nos émotions,
your question is a good one,
c'est une bonne question.
because we're not saying stop thinking, stop having emotions or feelings.
Car évidemment, je ne suis pas en train de dire cessez de penser, cessez d'avoir des émotions.
Rather, the delusions that arise from that.
Mais bien plutôt cessez les pensées discursives, les illusions qui émergent à partir de tout ça.
You are right where you need to be.
Tu es exactement là où tu as besoin d'être.
And you have everything you need.
Et tu as tout ce qu'il te faut.
Thank you for that question. I'm sure it is helpful for others as well.
Merci d'avoir posé ta question. Je suis certain qu'elle peut aider beaucoup de gens.
Do you want to
Merci.
say anything else?
Merci beaucoup, Jeff. Je suis très touché.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm very moved.
The question to the last question yesterday about pain and suffering. If somebody dies, I really love, and I'm very sad about this, and so, and is this a kind of pain or suffering? I really cannot, and how, and if I have a headache or something, I go to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but if I'm sad, what's this? And what can I do? Or what? I'm not sure about this.
My dear oldest brother passed away several weeks ago. And so I mourn his death. Mourn means to feel deeply sad. Huh? So I am now mourning his passing. Several times I have cried, especially listening to music that he turned me on to. He introduced me to some of the music, good or bad anyway, that we grew up with. And so now sometimes I listen in the last few weeks to some of those old songs, Jackson Brown, James Taylor, people like that. And a whole new meaning comes because he's gone now. And I've cried several times thinking of the loss. It was quite sudden. He was not quite 74. He was still 73 years old in relative good health. But all of a sudden he died. So I mourn him. He deserves that. That is a way of honoring him, his life. But I also celebrate his life, not just mourn his death. Do you understand? It's Barbara, huh?
Yes.
Yes. It's a common misunderstanding that, I have become enlightened, so I will no longer feel sad. We already went into this yesterday in terms of pain and suffering. You still feel pain because you have a body and you have a mind. But are you suffering about it? I'm deeply saddened by my oldest brother's sudden passing. Tears come. Yes, yes, yes. As they should. That is the way that we can honor them. They deserve those tears. And I shed them. I cry them fully. And when they're done, I remember the wonderful times we had, the things we learned together, the way in which he is still alive here. But no, we don't need to try and cover over, conceal, repress the sadness. No, let it come. Let the tears come. In that way, we honor them. But you see how you could, Barbara, spend the rest of your life feeling grief, maybe even guilt. And you could, in effect, kill yourself over time because of this sadness, feeling of loss, guilt. Do you understand?
Yes.
That's where a perfectly natural and healthy sense of sadness, of mourning, becomes pathological. It gets wrapped up and tangled in the self, the ego self, and we know what happens then.
Okay.
It happens just as easily with something wonderful when we fall in love, and then we become obsessed, right? With you can't go out with anyone else. Don't even look at anyone else, or I'll get jealous. It can happen with anything. The ego self can corrupt anything it comes into contact with, happiness or sadness. Feel that sadness all the way through. Was it your friend, Barbara?
No, it's a
relative.
My youngest daughter lost her baby before birth. Yes,
I see.
Yes, and she called me and was so sad, and I got very sad too. And we always still are sad about this because she was
very, very tragic.
She was so happy, and then yes.
It's okay to be sad, Barbara. That's a very sad thing. And to commune with your daughter about that, to cry together. Yes, please do.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be another way. Do you want to say anything else, Barbara?
Oh no, it's too personal now.
Yes, let it come. Let it come and let it go. My condolences.
Thank you.
Jeff, getting older, I'm often very frustrated from not remembering things or being less able to coordinate my moves, getting more tired. And I get very frustrated and angry about it. When I'm on the mat, anger, I can deal with that more easily. But the frustration and irritation of the obstacles coming from getting older or tired, I have difficulty. I don't know how to work with that.
Do you still have some attachment, some identification with your former self when you were younger, stronger, better memory?
Probably, yes.
Why else would you be frustrated?
Mm.
I believe I'm getting older too. I haven't checked recently, but I think it's happening to many of us.
Yeah.
You're not the only one. How old are you?
78.
I'm 68, so you got me by 10 years.
Mm.
You're my teacher here. But I'm forgetting a lot too. Yes. And, the energy I had when I was 40 or even 50, no, it's not here anymore. We have to be more careful. Stairways,
Yeah.
walking in the dark, things like this. Yes. Do you drop things more often?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I used to drop things once in a while, but it happens more frequently. And I get very impatient about that. I yell or things like that. It's not very nice.
This is a part of growing old. But do you see what remains? What becomes even clearer as the senses start to shut down? That's what's happening, huh?
Yeah.
The
Even
senses
like driving at night is
we can't see as we used to. We can't hear as we used to. We can't chew, even though we're supposed to gnaw through our koan. We can't even chew like we used to, huh? Yes. And our body is not like it used to be. Our mind, our conscious faculties are not what they used to be.
no. Mm-hmm.
And yet, if you are not holding on to some former identity, which you no longer are, but if we hold on, right? I want to be like when I was 50 or 25 years old, forever. Would that be frustrating?
Yes, of course.
But if we clearly see where we are now, as Barbara said, perhaps with someone very close to us dying, yes, or with ourselves growing old. Yes, this precious treasure that we are given. You must see what is it that remains.
That remains in what sense? In what sense? What do you mean?
Find out. You can't see it. You're seeing, your vision is going, correct?
Yeah.
And so is your hearing, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so is your memory, correct?
Mm.
Your physical energy is not what it, correct? All of this is being lost. It's shutting down.
Mm.
You're dying.
Mm.
Instead of looking at the past and some former identity when you were stronger or whatever, see right here in all of that is being lost. What remains? What remains?
Sometimes when I go for a walk and I'm just there and I'm one with the flowers and the air, nothing is missing. Then
Nothing is missing, did you say?
No.
And what happens when something seems to be missing and it becomes very frustrating? Do you see what your mind is doing?
I protest in a way.
I think French and Americans are pretty good at that, aren't they? Huh?
Yeah.
Well, you may protest if you want. That's your right. Where's it going to get you?
No, nowhere. No.
It probably will make your growing older a little quicker and a little more painful.
Mm.
See, right here, in the midst of perhaps physical pain, the loss of so much, what remains? Do you want to say anything else?
What comes up is awareness.
Let something come up. If it's something coming up, that doesn't remain. It's already gone. Let it go. What remains? Sit with that for a couple of months.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Jeff. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I have a question. I just wanted to first note that yesterday you spoke about dukkha, or unsatisfactoriness or suffering. And many of these questions deal with those first few dukkhas in the First Noble Truth of old age, sickness, and death. So it seems like Buddha was right on with the human condition. I really felt for Barbara and her daughter, and I've heard you speak of this before, and I thought it might be helpful if I could ask you to talk about the Buddha story of the mustard seed. I've always found that very moving, and especially for people who aren't Buddhists, like maybe her daughter, might be very helpful. Very similar situation.
Thank you for mentioning that, David. Sorry, we don't have enough time. Gotami, Kisa Gotami and the mustard seed, if you want, I'm sure you can.